everyone. Today we're going to go over TL17. So we're going to do page 390 until 392. And we're going to look at the vocabulary too. So we're starting a new unit and we have a new essential question. So this one, if you have a highlighter handy, grab a highlighter. It says, what does it take to be a survivor? Now remember, the verb survive means to not die or to stay alive. So if you're a survivor, then maybe something bad happened and you stayed alive or you made it through. So what kind of traits or what kind of characteristics does a survivor have? Someone that makes it through a really difficult time. Maybe we could think they're very strong, or they have lots of determination. They don't give up even if things are very hard. Or maybe they have good friends or strong family to help them get through difficult times. And we're going to read this story, A Long Walk to Water. And this is a story about a boy that lives in Sudan, a country in Africa, and it takes place in the past during the Civil War, which was a war fought in that country. And we'll read about that, okay? But let's look at some of these. It says, a long walk. So imagine that you were going to take a long walk or a journey somewhere out there in the world, anywhere that you want to go. Where would you want to go? Can you choose a country that you want to go to? And then I want you to try and write or sketch, draw your response here. So the question is, where do you want to go in the world? Now, I want to go to Europe, and I want to go to countries like England or Germany because I've heard a lot of interesting things about those countries, and I think it would be interesting to see and eat the food there. And I have some family that came from that area too. How about you? Where do you want to go? Okay, I want to look at this one. It says leaving home. How would you feel if you had to leave your home, family, and community without any warning? So you had to suddenly leave. Try and pause and think about that. How would you feel if you had to leave all your family behind? Well, I am a foreigner living in Korea, and I had to leave my family behind in the United States when I came here to live and work. And I remember the night when I had to say goodbye to my mother. I was actually crying because I knew I would not see her again for a while. So how do you think you would feel if you had to leave your family? Okay, and we'll discuss that in class too. Let's move on to the next page, 391. It says here, analyze settings and character. Okay, so in a story, we have something called characters and settings. Now, characters are the people or animals or any imaginary creature that takes part in a story's plot. And the plot of a story is the main idea, the main point of the story, or really the main events. The story's setting is the time and place that the things occur, that actions occur. So let's circle this one. It's a time and a place, the setting. It could be the geographic location. That means geographic is where on the earth. Is it in China? Is it in Korea? Is it in the USA? Historical period. What time in history did this happen? The season, the time of day, and what culture is it taking place in also? What kind of city, what kind of people are in the story? So this story that we're going to read is called a historical fiction. So in a historical fiction, it has the basic features of fiction, which is plot, characters, conflict, setting, and theme, but it's set in the past and includes real places and often real events. And sometimes there may be actual people, there may be actual people in the story, the actual people that really lived. But I want you to remember this is still a fiction, so it still comes from the author's imagination. The author can make it what they want, but they're taking something that really happened in the past. Now let's take a note on the side here. A story's plot, so I'm going to say all stories have these things. They have a plot, which is kind of the main idea of a story. They have a conflict. And this is like the problem and solution of the story. All good stories will have something that's wrong, and then we'll try to fix it. And then a story will have the setting. Oops, let me put a space there. A setting, which is the time and place of a story. Many stories also have a theme, which is a message or a lesson that the story wants you to learn. Okay, now when we read a story, we can try to look at the structure, or this is really how the story is written. Before we looked at some structures, but here is the basic structure of a fiction story. So in a fiction story, we're going to have, like we said before, plot, conflict, and setting. These are called literary elements. Literary meaning all writing. So these stories have plot, conflict, and setting like this. And we're going to have a point of view, or the perspective of its narrator. Remember, we talked about first person or third person point of view. Are we seeing it through the eyes of a character or some outside character? We also, in a story, we might have something called flashback. Now, a flashback is when the author talks about something that happened in the past, a prior event. You can think flashback, it's kind of like a memory. And foreshadowing is a hint about events to come. So let's take a note here. Flashback is the past, or I'm going to say something in the past. And then foreshadowing is going to be something in the future. Something in the future like this. Okay, so maybe the author's giving a hint about something that's going to happen next. Now, as we read a story, we can try to ask questions. And here's a benefit to trying to do this to check our understanding. Benefit is a good thing. So we can try and ask questions as we read. If we don't understand something, let's ask a question, maybe to the teacher, or we can ask to other students. We can try to connect. We can use our background knowledge. We can use the things that we already know, information maybe about a country or about history, in order to try and understand the reading. If we don't understand, we can try and reread a passage slowly or even out loud. Say it with your voice to try and help our comprehension or understanding. And we can try to annotate. So we mark words and we highlight things. That's what we'll do as we try to read this story. Let's quickly look at the vocabulary. Now please open your homework. It's page 19 in your workbook, and here are the vocabulary sentences. And I want you to write some of the synonyms. Here are some synonyms for each of the vocabulary words. Synonyms are similar meaning words. The first word is veer. It means to change direction or turn or swerve. So you could say the airplane veered away. So it turned, it changed its direction, veer. The next word is hesitate. It means to stop or halt. So to pause, to stop before you do something. So maybe if you're nervous, you would hesitate, you would stop and wait and think. The next word is collapse. Collapse means to drop or fall over, or if a building collapses, you could say it crumbles, to fall down suddenly. So maybe if you're very tired and your legs are hurting, you would collapse. You would fall to the floor. The next word is scurry. It means to run or sprint very quickly, to move quickly with small, short steps. I think of a squirrel. The squirrel scurried away up the tree. The next word is shoulder. Now this is a part of your body, your shoulders, but it's also, this one is a verb, and it also means to pick up or carry something. So imagine carrying something on your shoulders. You could say, I shouldered the box, or I shouldered the weight of the box. I was carrying it on my shoulders. The next word is mortar. Mortars is a noun. This is It's another word for a gun, where it's a large gun that fires bombs. It looks like this. This is called a mortar. It fires like explosives high into the air, used in war. Oops. The next word is rebels. Rebels. I'm sorry, this I forgot to change. Rebels. These are the synonyms here. It's an activist or a fighter. Now these are people that are fighting against the government. So I'll say here, people fighting against the government. Oops. The government. So maybe they don't like how the government is doing things, so they're rebelling. They're rebels. In a civil war, you will have the rebels versus the government. The rebels versus the government. Next one is midst. Midst. This means like in between or amid. So you're in the middle of a group of people or things. You could use it for time too. You could say, I'm in the midst of completing my homework, or we are in the midst of a civil war. We're in the middle, in between. Okay, try to write some sentences, and I hope that helps you. I'll see you soon.